everybody, Jeff Davis here. Have you ever felt hopeless before? Have you ever felt anxiety or even that feeling of being judged by somebody else? I definitely know the feeling. And I wanted to share these tips with you here today to give you advice, either to you or someone you know, in terms of getting out of that hopelessness, of that weird feeling where you're just kind of stuck, that funk. You know that funky feeling that we all have at times? And I'm going to go into some tips, strategies, and techniques that I've picked up by not only studying literally hundreds of successful people around the world, but also from my own experience, things that I've applied in my own life, and I've seen that these tips and techniques work. Don't beat yourself up. If you're ever feeling down or even depressed, or even at times in very serious circumstances, very depressed, it happens. It's not about where you are now, it's about what you're going to do to get yourself out of it. So consider any one of these following 5 steps to apply in your life. Don't try to change everything at once, and absolutely don't overwhelm yourself by thinking, oh my God, I have to do this and this and this. Don't worry about it. Just pick one technique, implement that, and move on from there. Like I said, this may or may not apply directly to you. Hopefully it'll give you some insight, but if not, you can possibly share this with friends and family who also may benefit from the message. Step 1, and this worked very well for me in the past, is volunteering. What do I mean by volunteering? Well, I grew up in Newtown, Connecticut, and I volunteered at a local soup kitchen and homeless shelter in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is about 25 to 30 minutes away from my hometown. And at the time I was feeling a little bit down, actually very down, because of some setbacks I was going through, and I just felt like life was unfair. And I know that's a cliche, but I mean in every sense of the word, things were just not going right. And we've all been there, we all know the feeling. And my dad actually said to me, go volunteer at a homeless shelter. And the first time I heard it, I was like, do I really want to do that? I mean, I was skeptical and I was a little bit nervous. I mean, kind of even a little bit afraid, what would the people there think of me? And I was all caught up in my mind. But finally I said, you know what, I got to get out of my own head. I'm going to go volunteer. And I found out the hours that they operate, and they were serving dinner, and I just showed up. And, I helped hand out food. There was actually spaghetti that night. And I ended up volunteering there for many years, but I'll never forget that first night. Because I saw all of these people coming in, and I was serving them, and I saw what these people had to go through. And I kid you not, for that hour I was there, not 1 second was my mind on any of my problems. And it's incredible to think about, because up until that moment, for weeks, even months, my mind was consumed with all of these unexpected and unwanted setbacks. And then when I was there volunteering, gone. It was like, my mind was on these other people. I was completely out of my own mind. So consider volunteering. It could be a local soup kitchen, a homeless shelter, could even be a local sports team or organization, but anything to just get yourself out of your own mind. Step 2, or tip 2 that I have for you, is an extension of volunteering, and this is helping others. Now, of course, when you're volunteering, you are helping others, but I'm using helping others as point 2 because this could be using your expertise to help others. For example, tutoring. I started to tutor people in mathematics. I was really good at math when I was younger, and I was ahead of the class a little bit in terms of some of the subjects I was learning in advanced math. So I would tutor people, and I loved the feeling of seeing the light bulb go off in their head and helping them figure out math when previously they weren't able to figure it out. And they said, wow, thank you for showing that to me. So you don't have to be tutoring, but think of a way you can help other people. Is it your expertise? Is it your experience? Is it sharing your knowledge? Is it talking to various people in the community? In some way, helping others is a great way to get out of feeling down and even feeling depressed and anxious. Step 3 is gratitude. And this is another one that I heard all the time, but I never really applied it. But it was when I finally started applying it that it worked very well. And just remind yourself, first thing in the morning, what are you grateful for? It could be the food on the table, clothes, your health, your body, family. It could be opportunities you have in your life. It's very easy for the mind to zoom in on those problems that we were talking about earlier. And again, don't beat yourself up. It happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us. But if you just train your mind, even force yourself to write down, really quickly, 5 minutes, 5 or 10 things you're grateful for, it'll pick your mind up out of that anxiety into a feeling of awe, wonderment, gratitude, and like, wow, you have a lot to be thankful for, even when you're in sometimes dire circumstances. 4th tip that I have for you, strategy, is perspective. A few weeks back, I was down in the Dominican Republic, and wow, these kids that I was helping in Abate outside of La Romana had literally no electricity, no food, barely a roof over their heads. Very difficult circumstances to grow up in. I mean, I've traveled the world and I've seen a lot of bad things similar to this, but I mean, this took it to a whole new level. And my friends, this was serious stuff. These kids had nothing. And just keep that in mind when you go about your life, and if you're caught up in a problem, if you're caught up in a setback, remember, you have food, you have electricity. If you have those things going for you, you have opportunities. I realize you might be having a bad day, you might be in a funk, you might be going through some unexpected challenges, you might even be depressed. That happens to human beings. It can happen to you and me both. But just remember, if you put it into perspective, it's going to help get your mind out of that. Like, wait a second, there's people on this planet with no food, no electricity, and dire circumstances, and they would love to have your problems, and of course mine too. And please know, I'm not pointing the finger at anyone here. We've all been at one point or another guilty of just being in our daily lives and taking things for granted. But just remind yourself, after coming back from the Dominican Republic, going down there with John Powers, I have a little daily reminder, is this really a problem? And your reminder can be anything that works for you. But is this really a problem? Then my mind will, want to make a big deal out of something, but I'll look at that note and I'll remember those really awesome yet very poor and destitute children that I met, and realize, your problem probably isn't as big as you think it is. And then that's a perfect transition into the final point today that I'm going to share with you. And I mentioned a couple seconds ago, actually, doing what works for you. That's the 5th strategy. Do what works for you. And that's really the X factor, in that if you'll remember at the beginning of this video, I mentioned to don't apply all 5 of these things at once. Just try one of them. So do what works for you. Apply the strategy or tip that is best suited for your life. Integrate the insights that you feel are going to work for your situation. That's the X factor, that people can suggest things to you and people can advise things to you, but only you know what is best for you. And I share that as an actual strategy because, I'm a speaker myself, but so often I attend seminars and events and keynotes, and there's a lot of great speakers out there, but sometimes I'll hear people who maybe they don't say it directly, but they imply it, this way works, my way or the highway. That's not the case. We're all different, we're all unique. Apply what works for you. These strategies and insights, these 5 that I talked about, they came from my experience. They came from hundreds of interactions with people that I've met across Europe, Asia, the United States of America, parts of Central and South America. And they're geared towards helping you and towards helping the people you know. So feel free to share them. If anything here resonated with you, I'd love to know what you thought. And of course, in the comments, share if I left anything out, or you think there's a crucial tip that helps you that I didn't talk about, that gets people out of their depression. Please share it. I'd love to know what you think. Hit like on the video. It's always great to know that people are engaging and resonating with some of this content, and feel free to stay tuned to this channel. I'm going to keep on sharing some highly relevant content to inspire your life and to give you the content you need to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Have a great day.